Hi! Sharing is caring, so I'm going to show you guys how to air layer and propagate this philodendron splendid. Alright, so before we get started, it's very important that you guys prep properly. Now, what I mean by that is when I air layer my plants, I actually prep the moss in Super Thrive. So this is the moss that I like to use. To be honest, I don't really think it matters the type of brand that you're using, so long as it is moss. I like to prep the moss with some Super Thrive and just let it sit in a container so that it can soak it all up. So this is what I'm left with now. You're gonna apply this moss to the aerial roots. So I'm gonna give it a little bit of nutrients so that the aerial roots can start to root. The other thing that you're gonna need is plastic wrap. Doesn't matter what brand. You just need a little bit of it. And lastly, your plant. So let's get started. A little bit of history of this philodendron splendid. It is a cross between a Milano and a verrucosum. I think I have a Milano. Hold on. Milano. So these leaves are very velvety, and this is much longer and narrow compared to, let's see if I can put them in frame, compared to these guys right here. So this is a splendid and this is the Milano. The verrucosum, I wish I had one, but it's like, it's more heart shaped and more round. I guess I could show you the verrucosum alval. It was in my last video, so just go look at that import video or my Instagram. It'll be there. So velvet leaves. Do you know what you're gonna have an issue with? Spider mites. Spider mites are a huge pest, and I've never had an issue with any pest before until this winter, and I think that was just because I was increasing the humidity and it was warm and I didn't have a fan going, and I got spider mites, and it's like the most annoying thing ever. So how do you get rid of them? Two options. One, you can use the it's predatory mites is what I'm trying to say. I was trying to think of the brand, but I can't remember what it's called. But anyways, you could use predatory mites, and it's like these little tags that you just attach to here, and it'll come out and eat the spider mites and its eggs and all that other stuff. And the other way is, what I've been doing is I will actually you may not agree with this method, but what I have been doing is I will put some of that fancy peppermint soap in a container with a fair bit amount of alcohol and a splash of water, and I'll just like spritz the leaves, let it chill for a minute or two, and then I'll come back, mist the plants so that I could rub the leaves front and back and the petiole and the stem, just to ensure that I got everything, and it'll break up the webs. Ugh, they're like a headache. I don't like spider mites. I don't like any pests, but that's what I've been doing bi-weekly to ensure that I don't have any spider mites. Now, I do this when I find spider mites. I don't do it bi-weekly just because, or as a preventative measure. As a preventative measure, what you can do is just spray it down with some water and rub the leaves weekly or bi-weekly, whichever. But when you have a bunch of plants, like I have 2 IKEA cabinets and an exo tank downstairs and some plants everywhere else, I don't have the time to individually clean and wipe off the leaves. It's just, we're just gonna have to do what we can when we see it. So back to air layering. I want to air layer this splendid because, one, it's getting too tall for my tank. 2, this bilobe leaf right here, does anybody know why it came out like that, because I, for the life of me, cannot figure it out. I don't know why it came out bilobe when all the other leaves are clearly very heart-shaped and, you know, happy. Like, I don't get it. I think it's because when I received this plant, it was in moss, and it was probably trying to establish itself and figure itself out. So it produced a bilobe leaf. I don't think it has anything to do with mechanical trauma, because I definitely did not touch it when it was unfurling. So there's that. All right, so let's get started. Where are you gonna put the moss? You're gonna put the moss on the aerial roots. Hope you can see that. So right here, these, oh, you can't see that. So, okay. These stinky little things here, these are aerial roots. Here we go. These are aerial roots. So you're gonna put them on this. And I'm probably gonna put it on the leaf that has the bilobe on it, because I need to cut that off. Whoever ends up with my bottom is gonna have 4 leaves. So let's get started. Got my plastic wrap. Now, when you're using moss, please make sure that it's not wet. It should be moist, slightly damp, but not wet. If it's wet, you're gonna rot it off, and it's just gonna be a disaster. So let's see here. I can do this so you can see what I'm doing. I am attaching it towards the stick that I have here as well, and that's just for support. And I want to note that I'm not going to be wrapping the saran wrap very close to the bottom. Like, I'm gonna leave a little bit of a gap, because once your root starts to take off, it's gonna have to go somewhere. So it's probably gonna grow down, not up. Like, it's not how gravity works. So I'll show you guys once I secure this. All right, so that's it. That's all you do. You just put some moss on the aerial roots, put some saran wrap on. You can see here that there's a little bit of a gap, and there's gap down here. Like, I can put my fingers through it. I'm gonna just secure it with some tape. And that's it. So I hope that was helpful. It's really quick and easy. I prefer air layering simply because you get to keep the integrity of your plant, and most importantly, you still get to look at this beautiful tall plant while it's air layering for you. Sometimes it's a little bit sad just to take a knife to it and cut it off and stick it in some water, which, by the way, this would have been fine. Like, this is a healthy plant. It would have been fine if I had just chopped it and then put it in some water. It would have probably taken a little bit longer rooting in water, but it is what it is. You could probably also cut it off and then add a little bit of Super Thrive to your water so that it can grow. But the thing is that you're gonna have to change your water very often, and I'm not gonna do that. I am very lazy, so this is a good way of propagating my plants, because the moss already has absorbed all the nutrients from the Super Thrive, which is why I prefer this method. One other thing that I want to mention is having the moss here wrapped in saran wrap is perfect, because it actually lasts up to a few weeks. Like, I think I've only ever had to give it some water every 1.5 weeks to 2 weeks. So that's quite nice, considering that if you were to stick your cuttings into water, you're gonna have to change it weekly because the water is gonna start to look very murky, especially if you add Super Thrive to your water. So it's another reason why I enjoy air layering. I hope that was helpful. I hope you guys are successful in propagating your plants, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye.